Hello guys, and welcome back to the How2Animate YouTube channel. And in today's video I've got something a bit different for you. I'm going to be showing you how to do some motion capture using the Rokoko suit. So this is a wireless mocap suit, awesome little bit of kit, and yeah, I'm going to show you how to set that up, do a bit of motion capture, get it into a rig in Maya and show you how to clean it up. The first thing you want to do is plug it in using the USB and set up your Wi-Fi settings. Okay, so you put all your settings in and then it should just work. It's really accessible, very easy to use. There is a wire at the side that you attach the battery to. The battery doesn't come with it, so I went with their recommended battery. Works brilliant, you get about 2 hours of capture with it. Okay, once you've got your Wi-Fi connected to the suit, then it's time to put it on and get calibrating. So first thing you want to do is create an actor profile. You see I've already got mine here, and this is basically where you put your measurements of your body in. So the more accurate you can get with these measurements, the better capture you actually get. Okay, so once you've done that, create a project, and you should be seeing this guy here, and it is tracking, it's all messed up, but if you're not seeing that, go back to your Wi-Fi settings until you can actually see one of these in the scene. Okay, once you've got this guy, drag it underneath your actor profile. You see how that's going to start tracking. Okay, and it's a little bit messed up still, so we're going to need to do a calibration. Okay, so what you want to do is go up to this button here and click it. Okay, stay nice and still. Okay, and then what you want to do is just test that that's actually working. A good test to do is put your feet together, like right together, and see if they're clipping through. I find the still pose is best if you actually have your feet completely together. That way you don't get any weird crossover, and it tracks a little bit better. So yeah, just give it a test, make sure it's actually tracking properly all the way through. The head tracker is actually hidden away in the back of the suit in a zip, so you need to get that out and put it onto your head before you do it. Okay, but that's pretty good calibration, so I think we're ready to continue to the next bit. Okay, so mocap myself doing a bunch of different combo moves, some more successful than others. I think the most successful one was this end one here. It tracked pretty well, quite a lot of weight in it. So yeah, we'll go with that one. Cool. Alright, so what we're going to do is export this and get it into Maya. We're going to bake it onto our own rig. So what we do is we want FBX format, binary. That version of FBX is okay. We're going to select human IK because that's what we're going to be using, and export. And it'll basically go through that entire sequence and it will export as an FBX. Cool. Alright, so let's get into Maya. Okay, so here we are inside of Maya. So for this I'm going to be using this great rig by Carl Figgins. Link for this is in description. Cool. Alright, so for this we're going to be using Human IK. Human IK is built into Maya already. It's a really great tool for getting mocap onto any rig basically. The only tricky thing about using this is the character needs to be in a T pose. These days characters are generally built in an A pose, so we need to correct that. So what we're going to do is switch over to FK, and this method will work for basically any rig as well, so make sure that they are in a T pose. So bring the arms up so they're horizontal, like so. Some characters also have the elbows bent, in which case you have to correct. This is pretty straight, so I think it will be okay. Okay, so there's two versions of this rig that come when you buy it. I prefer to use the game ready one because it's got this separate joint structure that we can actually use to calibrate Human IK. So if we go back over to here, what we're going to do is select everything on that rig at the top and go to create custom rig mapping. You want to say yes, define, and go over to definition. Okay, now the skeleton we actually want to output define is actually this one here. By default it's kind of hidden away, and it seems to be connected to something else which I couldn't quite find, so it's best just to break that connection and turn on joints. Okay, I've also got X-ray joints on just to make it a bit easier. Great, so we're going to define this character now. So it's as simple as you click this and then you find the hip joint. Sorry, you find the hip joint, then you double click. There you go. It's a bit tricky. And basically you want to do this for every single joint here. So I'll quickly do that now. So I've gone through all the joints and put them on the definition now. What we're going to do now, you might actually get this little error thing. As long as you're confident that this is parallel and it all lines up, then just ignore that, it should all still work. Right, so next step is to create the same kind of thing but with the controls. So you want to select the main root here, and then you want to go over to this button. Okay, so create a custom rig. Same deal here, so this is slightly different. You have to select the control and then right click, assign a selected effector, but exactly the same thing for the rig. Okay, now that's all defined, next step is to actually bring the mocap file in. So we're going to go to File, Import. Okay, find where it has been saved, and just import. Whoa, okay, that's huge. First thing to do obviously is scale that down. So another good thing about Human IK is even if you've got rigs that have got wildly different proportions, it will still all work. Okay, that looks pretty good. Right, so we have to do exactly the same process basically for the motion capture. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide everything on this character away on a layer. So we're just going to be dealing with this for now. Okay, so we're going to do a definition for this one as well. Okay, so what we need to do is go up to character here and set this to none, because we're going to create a new one. It's not going to be a custom rig mapping, it's going to be create a character definition. So we need to select this first of all, create definition, and exactly the same process as we did for the other character. Just go through and define each control. Okay, that's done. I forgot to mention that when the software exports out an FBX, it actually puts it in T-pose for the first frame, which is really handy. So you see we've got the mocap here, but this is just to do this bind. Okay, so with the mocap skeleton defined, next step to get it onto the rig is really simple. You just go back to your original custom rig. You see here where it says source none, you just set that to character 2. Okay, and then the mocap should appear on the character. Cool, so we can pretty much get rid of this guy now. We'll put him away on a layer. Okay, we'll hide everything apart from the polygons. Now the pole vectors on the legs have gone a bit wrong. I'm not too worried about that because I can just set them to basically orient to the feet, what the feet are doing, so that's not too bad. I'm mostly concerned like with this area here, how is it kind of copied over. It doesn't seem to be any major problems. Okay, so there's lots of cleaning up to do, which is actually a good thing because that's part of this tutorial is the cleanup process. So it's probably quite good that it requires a bit of work to get this up to final. So cool. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is bake it onto this control rig that we created. you see these controllers here, that they are moving, but it's just literally a constraint at the moment. So go back to Human IK, and we're going to go to Baked Custom Rig. So I'll take all that data and put it onto the controllers on ones. Okay, so these controls are now baked. What I'm going to do now is start a timing pass on this. I like to do a timing pass at this point because it's already on ones, and we're going to be using the tracks editor. Once you come out the tracks editor, it's going to bake it down on ones anyway. It's a lot easier to do a timing pass and get the timings a bit nicer on this in the tracks editor than trying to do it kind of manually and squishing all these keys together, and they're all on top of each other. It just gets extremely messy. Plus I need to sort of cut all of this stuff anyway, so let's do that now. Let's get this into the tracks editor and we can start editing it. So select all the controls, go to Windows, Animation Editor, Tracks Editor, select a new clip. Okay, and what this does, if you click a control now, you see the way there's no keys on here, it's all gone up to here. And this kind of works a bit like video editing software. Same sort of thing. You can cut stuff into clips, you can blend them, you can do all sorts of stuff, retime, you know. Okay, so the clip we're going to be using is this end one here. So let's take it from maybe there. So right click, split clip, get rid of all that, and we move this back to 0. Okay, and we'll cut the end off as well, so maybe about there. So split and get rid of that. Okay, now timing pass. Mocap tends to come in a little bit sort of floaty and not very nice. It looks realistic, but there's no sort of nice timings there to make it interesting. So during this pass, I like to just chop it up into different sections and retime as I see fit. Okay, so we've got the initial sort of bit here, that's all fine. Then you go into a anticipation, so I want to kind of define that anticipation a bit. So maybe there, I'm going to split it. Okay, this is the attack itself, all the way down to about there, so I'm going to split that there. This is the end of the attack, so I'm going to split it here because I want to extend that a little bit. Oh, I think I did that wrong. Split. Okay, and again, anticipation here, I might want to make that a bit longer, so split that. The attack itself coming through ends about here, so split that. So I've just got loads of little chunks that I can actually play with the timing on. Shift it along a bit. This will give me a little bit of room just to work. Alright, so this is the idle bit, so maybe give it a little bit more time to that. Okay, we've got the initial anticipation, so I definitely want to give maybe that many more frames to it. So I want a slower build up, but then a quick attack. So the actual slice through is going to be quite a bit quicker. So probably make that about half. Bang through. This is the recovery of that, which I want to stretch out and give maybe double time to. Okay, this bit here is the anticipation into the next, so again maybe 150 for that. Okay, so completely guessed that, but it should already look a lot better. Bang. Cool. Quite happy with that. Maybe I'll tone down the pauses in between a little bit, but you see, in general, that feels just a lot better. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is just a general edit on her positioning, because she's miles away from the origin and she's kind of floating, so really easy fix. I'm just going to select all of our IK points, so legs and pole vectors, add those to an animation layer. Okay, and I'm just going to move them across to the origin, so she starts here. Not really necessary if, you know, all you're going to be doing is rendering out, but if I ever wanted to put this in game, then you should need to start at the origin. And just reposition her so her feet are generally on the floor. It's going to make cleaning up a lot easier. Great, okay, I'm going to merge that down because we don't need that anymore. So merge just on ones. So I'm going to get the swords in her hand nice and early. So this rig already comes with a sword with some sort of rig on it, but I'm going to sort of get rid of that. I'm going to duplicate it and unlock the geometry. So I'll create my own sword and just get rid of this one here. Okay, I'm going to scale these down a bit because these are going to be kind of short swords. So first thing I need to do is actually kind of get her into a nicer idle position, so I can actually position these swords. So we'll do that now. I'm going to select everything on her, put it on an animation layer. So I don't butcher the rest of the animation. I'm going to set a 0 key at 20. That basically nullifies anything after 20, and then I can just modify the idle pose how I want it. Alright, so that's a slightly stronger pose. That'll do for now. What I'm going to do is get these fingers into a position where they can actually hold the sword. Okay, so I've got the hands into more of a grab pose, so now I can position these. So I'm just going to duplicate again. These are going to be positioned forward like this. So just get it into position. This character isn't referenced in, so I can just do a straight parent to the hierarchy and still be able to animate them. So get it into position. I always get this the wrong way around. This one to this one, and P. Yep, that was right. So sword to hand, press P, and that will parent it under the hierarchy. Cool. All right. So throughout the animation, now she will be holding the swords. Okay, now that's done, we can kind of finish modifying this base pose here. Get these swords a little bit further away from each other. Alright, something like that to start, that would do. So gradually coming out of that pose, so you probably want to copy 0 and just move it along a bit more, and then set that to flat. Cool. Alright, I'm going to keep this layer for further modifications. So at 20 it basically zeros, so you can tell, because if you dial the weight off, nothing happens. So from this point onwards we can still kind of use this layer. So the first attack here, we've got a standard kind of diagonal attack. The edge alignment is quite bad, so it's going to need a bit of modification. Okay, so I need to modify this attack, so this sword kind of goes straight through her head at the moment. So what I need to do is actually key this arm, come from about here, so maybe move that back a bit, and then from about here I need to get it a little bit further forward. So from the shoulder I'm going to kind of modify how it comes up on a layer. And it's really important in Mocap that you start on animation layers. You don't want to be touching the base layer unless absolutely necessary. because you can kind of eat into the mocap and kind of destroy it very quickly. So unless you're really experienced, then animation layers are definitely the way to go. Okay, so I've kind of modified this. I guess it would be the equivalent of like a breakdown here to get it round her head. So we want it coming up and around her head, and then it can flick around. Okay, and the edge alignment here is a bit, well, it's quite a bit off, so I'm going to change it so that it's coming there. We want it coming down on a diagonal. Okay, so this pose here would also need modifying. So it'll be a bit more like that. So we want it cutting through on the same line. Okay, here we want it to end up maybe there. Okay, so that's already feeling a bit better. Let's see if we can just delay that arm a little bit. Okay, that'll do for now. So the first pass on layers it can still be quite rough. It doesn't have to be finalized, but you just want to make it look a bit better. Okay. Always make sure you have a 0 key somewhere that you can refer back to, because if you kind of mess up, then you're going to have to use this weight to sort of dial on and off, and that's a bit of a pain. So try to make sure you've got a 0 key somewhere on your timeline. Cool. Alright, so she goes into this. Not particularly happy with this pose here. So I think we're going to modify this. So I want this sword arm here to be back and away from her. Okay, so we want a bit of negative space. Let's make this pose look nicer. Okay, so instead of in her body, it's going to be out about here. Okay, so I've hidden some of the extra stuff, so it's all getting in the way. I've also made the swords a bit smaller. I think when I was mocapping, I had very light weapons. So yeah, made the swords a bit smaller. So for this second attack, so I come through and I hit this pose, which is a little bit better, like the arms out. Then I need to kind of get this arm sort of inverted. I want the cut to come up at this diagonal here. So what I'm going to have to do here on this layer is start blending off that a little bit later, and then kind of modify and overkey to get this arm in reverse, coming along the correct line of action. So something a little bit more like this. I need to get this arm out of the way because it's clipping as well. So it just looks a bit awkward here. It's like it needs to be about here as well. Alright, so you just use the layers just to do general modifications. Okay, and I probably want to modify this pose as well. So same sort of thing, I want this to be a little bit more open, a little bit more dynamic. Okay, so let's just check the edge alignment so it comes through. Yeah, so it's still slightly off. I need to keep this arm sort of twisted this way a little bit longer. Okay, so it should looks something like that, with the edge alignment coming through at an angle all the way through, and then there's this bit at the end where it sort of reverses like this. Okay, cool. And then the final attack is a stab. So what we have to do is I'll copy and paste this to here, just to get her back into a bit more of a neutral pose. I need to get this arm probably out of the way a little bit earlier. The thing with stabs is you need to try and keep the arm along the horizon for as long as possible. So gonna need some breakdowns here. Let's try and get this arm out of the way. Try and keep the sword horizontal. Oh, okay, this arm's gone a bit crazy, so okay, get the sword out. Nice and straight. Stabs are sometimes actually easier with IK, but we'll just make do with FK for now. Oh, okay, so we need to hit that pose quite a bit earlier, so about here. Let's just kind of make her pose a bit nicer. Okay, this arm's going a bit crazy. It might actually be, Eula, or it might just be, sometimes the combination of the base layer and the animation layer above can send things a little bit weird, so just kind of fight against it a bit just to get it right. Cool, right, let's copy and paste 0 to that. Get back to idle. So even though this isn't the same idle pose, but we'll just kind of modify it so it looks a bit nicer. If this was going into an engine, I'd make sure it went back to the same idle pose. You'd probably have to step forward, but just for the purposes of this demonstration, it's fine just to get it back to something a bit more neutral. Okay, so it's still really rough. This is the way it works. You don't want to do everything at once. You kind of build it up very slowly on layers, just little tweaks. You see the way the feet are kind of sliding about all over the place. That's something we kind of have to do on base layer, but just a general pass with the animation layers to start, just to get it a little bit cleaned up. This, to be honest, would probably be a good first pass. This could probably go into the engine like this if this was a gameplay animation. If the designers, programmers are waiting for these attacks, just give them this, say it's not final, and gives you a bit more room to actually go in and clean it up. Okay guys, that brings this video to an end. So in the next one, I'm going to get this up to final, going to get into the base animation layer and show you how to clean the graph without destroying the actual data itself. And yeah, really hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful, then please give this video a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.